Alright, this is chapter 10. He talks about astronomy. When I first read this title, I'm like, what the hell? Well, basically he has some good information in here. He starts talking about object-oriented. And there's a couple aspects that I find pretty funny. When we get to them, I'll tell you how I think they're pretty stupid. Okay, but we're going to talk about object-oriented stuff, and he starts off using a planetary model, which is a good example to use for that. Okay. So they talk about many people assume the computer science is all about programming. It is, but it's also about logic. It's about problems. It's about stuff like that. Okay. My stepdaughter was over the house this weekend, and it's funny because she's failing one of her classes. Well, it's computer applications they call it, but they're actually programming in Java. Bad luck for her, because I know Java very well. Well, she was missing a lot of homework. What?
Is that a bad thing?
Well, because I could help her with her homework, and she had to do it. It wasn't, oh, sorry, I don't know what you're doing. You're going to have to wait to ask your teacher. But she was having a problem with Chapter 4, and I found out that she's actually been having a problem since Chapter 1. She just plays video games during class and all this stuff. So I was walking through with her. But the big issue is she doesn't know how to solve problems. A lot of people have issues like that. They don't know how to solve something. And I'm assuming some of you are going to take my forensics class sooner or later. Some of you. And that's all problems. That's all it is. Every week it's a new problem to solve, and they're not all tough, but they're problems, and you got to solve it. You got to work it out and figure out how to do it. So, but at the end of the weekend, she actually had some of the material figured out in Java, and I was actually emailing her teacher back and forth, so, well, I don't know. But it says programming is an important part of what scientists do today. Okay, computer sciences, that is. You cannot do anything in the world without programming. I'm sorry. Programming makes so much easier. I mean, if you have a menial task, yeah, like resetting passwords, you could probably do without programming. But can you imagine if you were in charge? Like, perfect example, here at Rose State, you all enroll in classes, obviously. Well, our D2L system does not integrate with our student system, okay? So they're not connected in any way. So how would they get the students that enroll in classes into D2L? Well, what they did is they wrote a script that every night at midnight exports the changes that happened during the day. And that script is run on the D2L server every morning to implement those changes. Can you imagine if that wasn't written in a program? Can you imagine if somebody was sitting there, okay, we had, 600 enrollments today, and manually having to export the 600 enrollments and manually add those 600? How much do you think would happen for error? You think there'd be any errors? Yeah, when I worked at Tinker, when they moved me into the networking shop, it was kind of funny. They moved me in there. It was one of those deals where the captain in charge, actually the colonel wanted me there and told the captain, you're going to take him because he knows what he's doing and no one else does, which you can imagine the atmosphere of the networking shop when they shove somebody in there that's going to fix all your problems. They really hated me. Well, one of the big issues we had to do was we had to assign IP addresses in the whole AWACS division, maybe 500-600 computers. Well, there's something called DHCP. Some of you might have heard of it before. But we didn't use it. We manually assigned every one of those computers an IP address. So can you imagine how many got screwed up? Massive amounts. Because you had to type the IP address. First of all, you had to add the computer account to the domain, set the IP address, and someone had to go out to the field and do the identical thing on the machine. There was always errors. And not a good idea. So hence DHCP was made for that. But there was just a lot of stuff that knowing how to program can really help. It makes you solve things. All right. So let's talk more about some stuff. We cover a lot in the Java class. We haven't covered it much in Python yet, so it's time to do it. Object-oriented programming. Okay? Object-oriented programming gives us the ability to make things easier. Okay? So we're going to do that. Okay? says to understand objects, you must first understand the idea of classes. What a class is a collection of objects and method or variables and methods. Okay? So we've actually, can you think of any classes we've already used in this class? We've used string, haven't we? String had methods that went along with it, had variables, so we could check the length of the string. So pretty much every object has methods that can go along with it. So we use turtle. Turtle's a prime example. We imported turtle, then we created a new turtle. So in other words, you create a new instance of the turtle object. Turtle's the class. That's why we had to import it at the beginning. Okay. Some of the methods were forward, right, left, that kind of stuff. Speed, all that stuff. Okay. So Python classes, it says we've already explored a number of them. Some are integer, boolean, float, string. There's a whole bunch. We've actually done a lot with them, but the way Python works, you just don't realize you've been using them. Okay, and we're going to see a couple examples of those today. But an integer, 5, so the number 5 is an integer. Y'all agree with that? Okay, it's actually a class. The integer class is what handles the number 5. Okay, the value true is an instance of the Boolean class. So there's a lot of stuff we did that we just don't realize it. Things that are more popular like strings. Remember with strings we could check the index of it, we could check the length of it, we could iterate through it. Y'all remember that. We could check the character of, we could replace all. There was a lot of stuff we could do with the string class. Okay. When we create a new string, it's a new instance of that object. Okay. The same with list. Remember, we could create a new list, and then we could check, the size of the list. We could order the list. We could get the maximum value of the list. There's a lot of stuff we could do with a list. So the list is the object or the class we were working with. Okay. So there's a bunch of stuff involved. And they have a little one here, so I just want to type in a couple of these little ones so we can, they're nothing new at this point. But if you want to follow along, it would be helpful to you, for sure. And we could see how this works. Okay, I'm going to make it so you can see it on the screen. So I get my window to the right size. Okay, so here he's talking about my list. My list equals 23, 66, true. Okay. So what did that do? Does anyone know what that did? It did what?
Made a list.
It made a list, exactly. It created a new instance of the list class and automatically assigned some values to it. See, it's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we don't realize. Okay? So if I want to look at the first instance, my list 1. Very easily. I can reverse it. My list dot reverse. Now I want to look at what my list 1 has in it. Whoa. Why didn't it work? Does anyone know?
Reverse it, true. 66
Oh! Good point. Totally good point. So, let's do this again, but this time we're going to leave those off. Very good point, though. I actually didn't catch that. Yeah, very good. So I didn't even catch that. There was only 3 elements in it. Number 1 was it. But, so if I print out, you'll see a list that originally was 23, 66, and true. But now, after I reversed it, I do my list and I get true, 66, and 23. You can also sort it. We can do all kinds of stuff with it. I think we did sort, didn't we? Okay. Okay, now it's sorted. So a lot of stuff we can do. So the class is a list class, and my list is an instance of the list class, the object. Okay? So nothing new. We've already done all that stuff before. Okay. Now, he starts with this next thing. This is kind of different, but we're going to walk through it. I'm going to do count equals 1, count equals count plus 1. So what should count be now? It should be 2. Okay. But there's some stuff built in, like count equals count dot underscore, spell count correctly, dot underscore underscore add underscore underscore. So what would count be now? Should be 3. Should be. And it is. What the underscore underscore add is, if we look up here on this code, it talks about, however, the right side looks a bit the right side of the assignment is actually using a special method called underscore underscore add to perform the addition. So which way would you rather write it? With count equals count plus 1 or count equals count dot underscore underscore add underscore underscore 1? Count plus 1 is easier. But the add method is actually parts of many classes, and it's not always as easy to add a number to it, where the add method can actually do a lot more with it. And it's something built in. And like they have the next code he has here, he has my list dot underscore underscore get item underscore underscore 1. That's the same exact thing as my list underscore 0, isn't it? No, 1, I'm sorry. Keep mixing those up. So it's the same thing. Okay. It's just that some of these methods are built in, and there's reasoning for some of them, which we'll cover here in a little bit. But, and it's not something special about our book or our version. If you actually did like Python underscore underscore add, you'll see it talks about it. There's lots of examples of it. Okay, help with the add method. So see, it actually supports a number of items, the self and then the number. You can do just yourself. So there's a lot of other functionality you can bring in with it. You don't need to know about that at this moment, but the whole point is there are other things that are built in to these objects in these classes already. Okay, there's a whole bunch of them actually built in. Okay. Now this next part. Okay. He goes through, I think it's called the planet. Is he doing a planet? Yeah, the planet class. Okay. So a planet, what are some of the things that would pertain to a planet? Anybody? What could you tell me about the Earth? What's its name? Earth. Could you get the diameter? Could you get the speed around? So there's a lot of stuff you could get. You get the diameter, the speed, the radius. There's a lot of stuff you could get about. So the planet class would be a great thing to use a class for. You could have the planet class, and you could have variables that pertain to it and methods that we could perform on those variables. Okay? And we're going to do that. I would like each of you to do this. Okay? The way it works, you say class and the class name. Then you define the methods that go with it. Okay? Now, we haven't got to the code yet. We're getting to it in a second. Okay. The first method in Java, it automatically creates a constructor method. It somewhat does in Python, but not as well. But the first thing you do is a constructor. What a constructor is, when you create a new instance of something, automatically calls the constructor. Okay? Automatically. And we're going to do that for our planet class. So I'm going to go ahead and type this in. And I'm going to actually move, well, let me move it down a little. Y'all still see that, can't you? Alright. So if you want to follow along, that's fine. Class, planet. It automatically indents for me. Define. I'm going to make mine smaller so I can put it above it. Okay. Mine's just doing word wrap at the end of the line here. Okay. So I'm going to define that. I'm going to say self. We're going to talk about what each one of these does. Self is iname. Self.name is iname. Self.radius. Okay. Self.mass equals IM, self.distance It's I distance. Okay, so I just created my planet class. I created a constructor. Then when I create an instance of this class, it's automatically going to call this constructor. Now I'm going to be able to assign it a name, a radius, a mass, and a distance. Okay. Okay, let me see. You mean when you went to this next part?
When you did the define whatever.
You already got a syntax?
Yeah, syntax or invalid syntax.
No, you got, when you do the one on page 333 where you put a divine method,
Right.
divine method 2, you get a syntax error on that.
Oh, okay, I just didn't have space. Sorry.
On line 333? This one? This is 333. Or are you talking about this one here?
You talking about, no, well, next, when you put that in here, you get the syntax error.
Right, well, because you can't use class name and you can't use ... That's just kind of like the format of the way it would work, okay? That will not work, okay? Because your method definitions and your colons at the end and so on and so forth. Well, but if you type it in this one, now I'm going to type in this next line of code so we can actually use it. I'm going to say my planet equals planet x25 colon 45 comma 198 comma 1000. So I'm passing it the name, the radius, the mass, and the distance. Okay, you do not have to pass anything for self. So now I'm going to hit enter. I get an error. Like you helped me figure out what my error is. So I typed it in exactly like the book has it here. My planet equals planet. So basically saying, you got a new variable called my planet, which is equal to the planet class, which we have defined. And I'm passing it a string for the name, which goes into iname. 45, which goes into the radius.
I don't know if it matters, but you define, it's in it, not...
Found it way too quick. You weren't supposed to point that out. Darn the bad luck. Okay,
Sorry.
my point was,
My bad.
the point was, you can define things and there's no errors in it. But if you spell it wrong, like INIT for initialization, you can have some really weird errors. And what the error I got was takes no parameters. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? What that means is there's no constructor specifying the parameters that it takes. So I need to fix this. So I'm going to go up in here and click here. Now I'm going to put an I there. Okay? So I warned Roy and Cameron not to point that out. I guess I should have warned you.
Is it better that you spelled it out right there, but on the top you didn't?
I could put it anywhere. Yeah, I could do it right there. Now I should be able to bring this line down and it should work.
I'm talking about like the I distance where you put all the way at the bottom, like you see where you self distance, I distance.
Right.
And on the top of parentheses you just put I distance.
Oh, good point. They need to match. Very good point. I didn't catch that one. That was a non-intended typo. The INT was intended to show you that it would compile. Good point. Okay, so I typed that. So the whole point of that was, even if you spell something wrong, the Python interpreter is looking for a specific method called underscore init underscore. If you call it anything else, it's like, okay, thank you very much. But when you go to run it, it's like, no. So now I'm going to bring in this line. And now it takes it. Okay? So you should be able to get that working. Hopefully, everybody. Now, let me pause for a second and help a couple of you figure out what your problem is. Talk about what this thing is doing. So we defined a class. In the past, we had defined methods. Now we're actually saying we want an entire class that can include objects and variables and all that stuff, okay? Now, inside here, so we have class planet, so the class is called planet. Now we define this underscore init, okay? if you read the bottom of this text right here, it says, we use the constructor to create an instance of the class by using the name of the class. We do not have to specify an IT. It does it automatically. It's kind of like in Java. When you run Java, it automatically calls the main method. Automatically. So you don't have to say main. Well, when you're creating a new instance of the planet class, like we did here, we're saying my planet, which is the variable, which is equal to the new instance of the planet class. We automatically pass it some variables to, or some arguments to that object. And what ends up happening is, when it goes to create, it says, okay, what is the planet class? Well, the planet class is all this stuff. And I want to just show you, what happens if I just type planet? I think it's going to error out. Yeah, oh, okay, it does show me that. But if I type dir planet, plan it, not plant, it'll actually show you all the stuff that comes with it. So it comes with init, comes with new, comes set attribute, it has string, it has a lot of stuff that are built into the class already. Okay? So when I called this right here, see, by default it gets an init, where's it at? It gets an init method. But it doesn't take any arguments. It's kind of like in Java, it's called the default constructor. It basically, it's kind of like you could buy a car, or you could buy a car with a bunch of options. Okay? If you don't specify the constructor like we did right here, it's kind of like buying a planet with no options. Just, I want a new name, a new planet. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet at this point. It's kind of like, Rose State has the new Homeland Security option. I don't know if you heard about it. It's been in the news for about 2 weeks now. In there, we said we were going to be offering this thing. We just haven't defined all the parameters of it yet. So I was actually working on that last week. It's actually going to have a digital forensics option in it. So the cybersecurity degree is actually being modified to have a networking option, a cybersecurity option, and a digital forensics option. So you could do either one. So we defined the Homeland Security degree. We just haven't figured everything out with it yet. So we're figuring the rest out later. But with this constructor for our planet, we basically said, hey, when you create a new planet, it's going to have a name, a radius, a mass, and a distance. Self always needs to be included. That basically says yourself. It's like for this object. Okay? Now, this is where it varies from other languages. So iname is obviously going to be the name. It doesn't matter what you call it as long as they all match up. So here we said self.name. In other words, the instance of the planet, because this is the self here and the self here. So the instance of the planet you're creating. So down here I created my planet. So the instance of the planet's name is equal to whatever we passed as an argument. So my planet's name is X25. Do y'all see that? Okay. My planet's radius matches up with the second argument, which is 45. The mass matches up with IM, which is the third argument, which is 198. And distance matches up with distance, which ends up being 1,000. Yes?
Okay, Kim, on that self.name,
Yes.
designing, how did you know that you need to put my planet equals planet to get your self.name?
Okay, it's the same. We've done everything. We did, we created strings that way. We did turtles, remember? Turtle, my turtle equals new turtle, whatever. It's just, it's just one of those things. Okay? Now, there's some, so we can easily see that. We can print out my planet, and we're going to get, I'm going to do my planet. Okay? Now, when I type my planet, yes, Roy?
On self, could you define self as being something else in that?
No, it actually has to be called self. What they're telling me.
No matter what?
What?
That's useless. How are you defining it?
It's kind of like this in Java. You know the this?
Right, but this could be defined as other objects. Could this also be defined as...
From what I'm getting, it has to be called self. Well, you could actually use the methods for other objects. That's probably what you're asking.
okay, yeah.
You could use the methods for other objects, yes.
Kim, how come you got my planet in lowercase p, up here at the top, you got a capital P?
Okay,
Oh, I see. I
the
knew
class
what-
is capital P,
I got you.
but my planet's lowercase
Mine
p.
worked with the capital P in it.
Yeah, as long as they match, you're good.
Okay.
So yeah, if you put a capital P here, it'll work fine all the way along. So when I did just planet by itself, it says, hey, this is a class. It's called planet. And when I did the directory of it, it shows all the methods that pertain to it. So when I typed out my planet all by itself, it says my planet is a planet object. In other words, it's of the type planet, and it's located at this location in memory. If I was to actually bring up my memory, kind of like an Excel spreadsheet or something, it went to that location, I would find this planet object being defined.
Mine is different.
Yeah, yours will be different. Because the way your computer works, as you load different processes, it goes up in memory. And I'm running a recorder right now, and I'm running a bunch of stuff. You're not. So I'm probably a lot higher up. Yours is probably lower than 02D. What's your first three numbers?
My first numbers were, I got 000000003FF.
Oh.
400.
So yeah, well, that long? So yours is 64-bit then. I wonder if we got a different OS on here.
Mine is just mine.
What? Oh, he's on his laptop. Oh, no wonder. Okay. It also depends on a 32-bit or 64-bit operating system. It depends on a lot of stuff. Okay. And since you have all those zeros, I'm thinking you got a 64-bit operating system. Okay. But this is saying that the planet object is the instance of it. It's called my planet. It's located at this location in memory. All right. So let's continue on. Some of the stuff we can do, like we can use init, we can actually use add. We've already looked at that one. There's a lot of other stuff we can do. Remember, my turtle had all kinds of stuff with that. Okay. So we printed that out. We already saw that. I just got a little head on that one there. But there's other things we can do. Now let's look at this picture he has here. This picture is actually kind of decent. Okay. So my planet, you can see my planet in the top left here. My planet is this entire object. Okay. It contains some variables: name, mass, radius, and distance. Okay. It contains some methods, initialization. Each of the variables, you'll see as we declared it, remember we declared it right here, we said the name is x25, so x25 went into there. The radius was 45 and went into there. Think of it like, rather than just using one block in memory, we created an entire section in memory to store these different items with it. Okay? So that's kind of a pictorial representation of what it looks like in memory. Okay? All right. Let's continue on. Now, accessor methods. Okay? Normally, see, we have name, we have radius, mass, and distance. We want to be able to use them. What good is it to store it with our planet if we can't use it? Okay? It's like, why buy it if you're not going to use it? So we need to create some accessor methods. Now, since ours is all in one file, since we don't have this defined in a separate planet class, I'm going to bring this back down. I clicked up in there so I can continue. That's not what I want to do. See, it's normally better if we did in another class. So now I'm going to define get name self. Again, I have to specify self. Return self.name. Okay. Now I'm going to hit enter. So now my planet class has the same constructor as it did before, but I added a method, an accessor method, so I'm going to be able to return the name. Okay. So now if I was to do directory of planet, now it also should contain a get name somewhere in here. There it is, get names at the very end. So that's what I added to it. Okay. Didn't add a lot. What get names can do is for the object that you're calling it from, return the name. Okay. Everybody with me? So now I want to use it. I'm going to say my planet If you did with a capital P, you need to put a capital P there. Get name. Has no yes it does. Isn't it called get name? Get name. Hold on, make sure I'm typing it right. I know I did it right. My plan dot get name. What did I type wrong? Had to spell it wrong. Oh, I wonder if it's because, you know what, we're going to have to put this in a separate file. It's not going to work otherwise. It's going to be too hard to have it all in this, inside the idle compiler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this out right here. I'm going to do file, new file. And I'm going to put a blank line there now. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save. I'm going to save it in my chapter 10 area. Sorry, it's just going to be easier if we do it this way. I'm going to call mine planet.py. So now I'm going to go back here. And I'll show you, I'll bring it up in a minute, show you what I'm doing. Import planet. Oh, I got to, hold on. I need to make a driver file for it. Crap. Okay, import. Because we have the planet class, now we need to save the file we could run. So I'm going to call this one my planet. I'm going to try to get these things, see them on the screen at the same time. So I don't need. All right. So if I run this one, it should run. Yes, it ran fine. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the code that I had in that other file. Let me get it here real quick. Where's it at? This one. And I'm moving it into my planet file. So now I have two files. I have planet.py, which is right there, which is just that stuff. Then I have my planet, which is one I'm going to run. They need to be saved in the same directory, and that way we can call them and use them. Let's make sure they run again. What do you mean module's not callable? I just called you. Okay. Does anyone know why I'm getting this error? I'm pretty sure I know why, but let's see first. Let's make sure. Okay. I actually had this error earlier, and I'll show you how I fixed it. Okay. So there's planet. It's fine. Let's make sure it's all fine. Yeah, that one's fine. Does anyone up with me? Does anyone have these two files created? Side of the planet. What?
Is that 1,000 or 100?
Okay, let me pause this for a second while you guys get caught up. Hold on. All right, so we put it all in one. So now we have the planet class, and then we're actually putting the call to create a new one in there. And if you run it, it should come up with that, which is perfect. No, you don't need to import it because they're all in the same file. Now I want to print, since it's in a separate file, now I have to put inside a print statement, myplanet.getName. See if you get that to work. That's the big question. All right. Mine worked fine. Okay? Is everybody getting that to work? Let me bring it up a little higher so those of you in the back can see it. Depending on how you typed it, you might have an error. That's what. If you get something with an error about spaces and tabs, let me know and I'll tell you how to fix it. Because I had that error earlier. Okay, are we getting there? Let me pause for a second while y'all get caught. Let me resume my recording. Okay, so we got it to work. So when I run this, you'll notice over here it outputs the name. Okay? Okay. Now what if I wanted to output the radius? Could we do the same thing? We could create a new method for radius, and mass and distance. I'm going to do all of them at the same time. So this one's going to be get radius. This one's going to be get mass. This one's going to be get distance. Okay. So when I run this, should now be able to call get radius, get mass. I'll let y'all catch up in a second. Okay, so I typed in those. So I made 3 new methods, and I called each one of the methods. Get name, get radius, get mass, get distance. Let me see what mine does. Has no attribute get. Did I spell it wrong? Yes, I did. I spelled correctly this time. Alright, why did I get 25 4 times? Come on, I made the 4 different methods. Get name, get radius, get mass. I have self.name in all of them, right. Just because I name it get radius, I still need to return radius. I need to return mass. I also need to return distance. Okay?
Does it matter if you...
The spelling has to match.
I know, I was just saying couple, but it doesn't because you got named.
As long as it's lowercase everywhere, yeah. Now when I run it, I actually got the correct information. Okay? See it's working? I got x25, 45, 198, and 1000. Now is there anyone besides me that's really confused on what 45 is or 198 is? Or like, what's what? How could I make it say radius colon 45? Anybody? What?
The print statement.
Exactly. I could do the print statement, or I could I put it in my current print statement? Could I say could I do that?
That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, put it right in the print. Darn it! I gotta convert it to string? Well, hell. They always want me to convert it to string. Now it should say radius is 45. Okay. Could I have it return the name and put the word name in front of it without adding it here? Without putting it here, kind of like I did radius? I don't want to put it there. Any idea how I can make it better? What if could I do this? Could I return could I actually return the entire string? And yes, I can. Show you what I just did, in case you didn't catch it. Just outputting the numbers and the name is it's hard to understand what it is. So to make it so it output radius colon, I actually put the string radius with a colon space plus, then I had to convert this to a string since radius is a number. But to do it for name, I didn't want to put it down here, so I can actually edit the return statement and actually return it at that point. Okay. So far so good? Everybody with me? Okay. You can do it either way. I just shown you a couple of different ways you can do it. Now, there's a very, well, okay, I'll get to this. Let's continue on. Everybody kind of with me? Somewhat? So what we did is we just added those 4 methods. I'm actually going to change them back to the way the book had it. That way there's no confusion for you guys. I just wanted to do it to show you it could be done. So I'm going to change it back to the way the book had it because it'll make a difference here in a minute. Okay? I'm just trying to make it easier for you guys to see. So I did it the way the book did it. So it matches. So when they ran get name down here at the bottom, where'd my thing go? You'll see the X25. Get mass, it got 198. Get name again, it got X25. Okay. Oh, that's the part I want to talk about right now. So I'm going to comment these three out. Okay. I want to comment those out. So I'm just getting name now. Everybody agree I'm just getting name? But print, could I return just name? Remember, get name is an accessor method that returns the name, which is the correct way to do it in object-oriented programming. That is the correct way. But could I just return the name? Not just name, my planet.name. Could I do that? Let's find out. Actually, I can. Does anyone know why I got a problem with that? Because we're not referencing it from the class. Even though they're in the same file, this is really not part of the class. The class actually ended right here. This is the end of the class. So this other stuff is after the class. Okay? Well, this is an accessor method. We used it to access the variable name and return it, which is the correct way of doing it. This is not. Does anyone know how that's doing it? It's accessing the variable directly as if it was declared public. Those of you who have taken Java know the difference between public and private. There's a big issue with this. Okay, imagine you got a bank account. Okay, I'm assuming we all have one. Cameron might not, he's too young. Okay, assume we all have bank accounts. How do you put money into your account? Make a deposit. How do you get money out? Make a withdrawal. I could write a check, I could go to the ATM. So there's checks and balances on how to get money in and get money out. If I'm making a deposit, hopefully it verifies that the check's good and the money clears. All that stuff's part of the deposit section. That's kind of like an access or mutator method. We can make a deposit, get the balance, all that kind of stuff. What if I could access the amount in my account directly? What if I could go in there today and say, Ken's balance is now $2 million. And I could just hit enter and it took it. Would that be scary? Way back when, this is like in 1995, I started working for this ISP. And then I started running my own. Well, this guy contacted me, had a CD-ROM of a program written in Visual Basic to display checks on the screen. Your bank check. He wanted to know if it could be converted to run online. So not just on your local computer, run on the internet. Well, his entire program was public variables. So all throughout the program, he was just referencing stuff that I couldn't figure out where it came from. Well, I rewrote it for him all, and I gave him a proof of concept, a prototype, that you could actually display a check on the internet. And it worked like a champ. And I presented it to the bank, and guess what they said? Nah, nobody will ever want to see that online. They did not purchase it.
And now they do.
And now everybody does it. I was also, this is like in the early 90s, approached by a guy who said, hey, I had a great idea. Create this online auction site where people could sell stuff and buy stuff. I made him a prototype of that. I just can't see how I can make any money, so he canceled it. Now I got eBay. Doesn't that suck? I also created where you could add images for your house. Say I want to sell my house. And you could go in there and say, I want to see the bathroom or the kitchen. I made a prototype of that. Actually, I finished the entire program of that for $3,500. Then the guy's like, nah, I don't think I want to use it after all. Never paid any penny. I was pissed. Now we got Zillow and everything else, so makes me very mad. But my point is, if I could go into my bank and just change the balance without making withdrawal, without making deposit, would that be a bad thing? That would be a terrible thing. And the way we're doing it here is that way. We're just accessing name without going through the proper channels. Get name is the proper channels. So I did some researching. Let me see if I can find the link I found this morning. I probably can't. I did Python public variables. See if I can find it. And let me, no, I want private. I did private variables, not public. I did private variables. Does Python have private variables? Now I'm going to search for private. Hope this is the one. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, come on. Let's go back one. Maybe I missed it. No. Okay, here's the great thing. Says David, the presumption is that we're all adults here. Don't break things that you can't fit. Oh, that's not the one I want. Darn it. Hold on. That's not the one I want. That's not the right link then. Well, hold on. That's a problem. Basically, the comment was, you can use them, but we're all experienced programmers here, so we don't really need them. That's very incorrect. It was basically, we don't need it. It's okay. Just leave it the way it is. No one's going to screw it up. It's like, what? See, Python really doesn't have any way to handle private variables, which is very scary, in my opinion. Because imagine if someone wrote a Python program to manage your bank balance, and someone broke into the code and added one line that says, Ken Dewey's dot balance is now $1 million, and hit enter. Ken Dewey's got $1 million. You can just see issues. Has anyone ever done any type of accounting? I used QuickBooks for years when I ran my business. You couldn't just add money. You had to assign it to a specific category. It had to come from, an invoice or from something. So that's very disconcerting to me that we can access variables in Python without any.
So is this the weak link in Python?
The very weak link in Python. Now, I don't think they show it here in the book. No, they don't. What they said was, I just thought this was hilarious. You can, let's see if I can find it. I don't know. I don't remember the exact, that's not the one. Maybe it was at the beginning of this one. I'm trying to find it here. Well, it was like foo or something. Come on. What in the heck is that? Oh, I don't know where I found the darn thing. What they were saying was, just create variable names that are so obtuse no one would ever expect to use them. That's the fix for it. It basically says, don't use name. Use something like, here the example was, use __ name. That way, you'll see that we can actually reference get name. Actually, hold on, I gotta fix get name.
Wait, so they really reference security for obscurity?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
So what happens is, actually, let me comment. Where's my code? Let me comment out this part right here. I'm gonna comment that out. Okay, I'm gonna run this. Okay. So it does. Using get name works perfectly now. Y'all agree with that? And I'll put the X25. But when I try to access name directly, it says no such variable. Because it's not called name, it's called __ name. Now when I saw that, I'm like, seriously? They're like, yeah, just use an obscure name that no one would ever be able to guess. It's like, wow. That was actually in Python documentation I read this morning. I'm like, I'm scared now.
In all fairness, Python is supposed to be a scripting language.
Right, exactly.
It's supposed to be commercial.
Right. You're not going to be using it to write a commercial application. You're going to be writing something just to write a script to do something. But still, just the fact that they tell you in the documentation, just make the name so obscure no one will ever do it. It's like, wow. I was. So it makes me wonder when they came up with underscore, underscore, init, underscore, underscore, did they make it obscure so no one just types in init with INIT? You know what I mean? I don't know. But yeah, I thought y'all would get a kick out of that. It's like, why? So really we could call this, something else, like Billy Bob for the variable name instead of name even, then no one will ever guess Billy Bob.
You know what would be really awesome?
What?
Is if you took whatever your original name was, hashed it, and then that one...
We could do an MD5 hash of the variable name.
I love it.
And that would be so confusing no one would ever be able to understand it. But again, I found that this morning, so I thought I had to share that with you. I'm like, wow, that's kind of... All right. So, everybody kind of with me still? All right. So you saw an example. He could access the name through the accessor method, and he can also access it directly, which I showed you both. Okay. Now, in my example, I just showed you how I could no longer access it via name because it doesn't work. It's like, what the hell were you talking about? But I could, if I knew it was underscore, underscore name, then I could... Isn't it underscore, underscore name? Oh, maybe they made that with when it has two underscores, you can't access it. Maybe that's what they did. That could be it. Because they mentioned do it with underscore, underscore. Maybe that makes it so it can't be referenced externally. Oh, okay. Well, that makes a little more sense now. You understand what I just said? Since I used name with two underscores, it basically made it so I can't access it, which is better. But it's still weird. Okay. So let's move on. Okay. So that wasn't even in the book. I'm like, okay. Now where was... Okay, so let me go back up. I think I skipped a section. There's accessor methods. We did those. Okay, we did the example. Now, he starts doing some methods here like get volume. Okay, let's do a couple of those. I'm going to modify my class. Let me get it on the screen so I can see it. Well, if I can get the right file up, I'm going to modify my class to define get volume of self. And that is, actually, let me copy.
I don't know why I keep getting errors.
You know, hold on, let me pause this for 1 second. I want someone to get us. Now, you have the exact error I want to see. I want to see if I can get this to do it, okay? Yeah, because I had the error this morning, and I'm like, great. And up here, it's not giving me the error. I'm like, crap. Okay. Let me see. There it is. I got it. Finally. Okay. Let me show you the error. Okay, this is the same error you're getting. I typed this exactly like they have in the book. Do you agree? It's down here at the bottom. Oh, I forgot to return Y. Well, that's not the error anyway. Return V. Okay, that's not the error. Yeah, you need to return V as well. But when I go to run it, I get this error, which I was hoping somebody would get, and I'm glad it finally came up on mine. The error says your indentation is outside. Your indentation is outright incorrect, or your indentation mixes tabs and spaces. All right. Now, if you notice, here is indented more than here. Okay? Y'all see that? Okay. And I did nothing different. I just hit enter key and it did it. Let me show you what's wrong with it. I'm going to copy these two methods, okay? You don't need to do this. I'm just going to copy it so you can see it on the screen. I'm going to paste it in the text pad. I'm going to paste it here. Now I want to view this. Anyone see a difference? Okay, so this one is actually tabbed over twice. You see that? This one has a bunch of spaces. It does no tabs. Everybody see that? That's an issue. And the way I got this one, I just hit enter. It automatically put the spaces in there for me. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fix it. Okay, if you go to Edit, Select All, or Control A, then Format. You got two options. You have tabify region or untabify region? I'm going to do tabify region. Okay? What that does is it's going to replace all them spaces with tabs. So when I do that, then just say okay to the tab count. When I zoom down now, you'll see that get volume is actually a whole bunch farther over. You see that? Everybody see that? So now I'm going to copy this back out, put it in TextPad so you can see what it did.
What number did you put in there?
4. So now you can see they're all the same. So by doing select all, tabify region, it actually goes in and converts all the spaces to tabs. Now I can say, okay, I got one too many. Okay? Now I can run it. And ta-da, it's all fixed. Okay? I'm glad. It's funny. You got there and I got there right after it. You see what? You got the same error, Mitchell, would have popped up? Okay, let me pause this and come help Mitchell real quick. Alright, so everybody saw what we did. We used tabify region to fix that. Another thing you could do, I'm going to select these bottom two only. I'm going to go format untabify region. Okay? Now I'm going to copy this out and put it in TextPad so you can see what it looks like. Now what it did is it replaced all the tabs with spaces. So you can very easily convert one way or the other. Okay, I want to edit undo that. I want to have the tabs. Okay, so you can do it either with spaces or with tabs. You just have to be consistent. And sometimes when you have it create the method for you, it'll automatically default to spaces, which I don't know why. Okay, so now we got get volume. Now I'm going to get rid of some of this code down here. I'm going to output get volume. And see if we get an error. Yes, we got an error. How do I fix it? Oh, very good. Y'all hear what Chris said? I typed the code is exactly like the book has it. Exactly. Do y'all agree with that? That code right there is exactly what I have here, but it won't run. When I try to run it, I get an error, math not defined. So how do I fix all that again? What do I do, Chris? Import, go back to the beginning. Import math. Ta-da! Works like a champ now. So you guys are getting good at fixing these.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
And nobody answers emails until...
Well, I don't. See, Saturday I was busy all day. Hey, at least you get answers.
Yeah, I got answers too late. Shit.
Well, sorry. It was Sunday afternoon when I finally got your email. I'm like, oh, crap. Sorry. Saturday I was busy doing that whole family stuff. But Sunday I answered. I was answering until about noon on 1 o'clock on Sunday. So, all I know is there's some instructors that don't answer at all. So, all right. So where are we at here? So, I don't know why that whole tabify thing happens. It's only in idle. You can actually write it in something else where you don't have... Because if you write all your code in TextPad and saved it, you wouldn't have this issue. But I'm kind of glad you have the issue so you don't have the problem at home. All right, so we did get volume. We could do the same with get surface area, get density, so on and so forth, and it would output the results here. Yeah, we did the first one, and it should be the same results. It is.
Mine has that. When I did that get volume and did the tab file, it moved mine way to the right. It's not supposed to.
What do you mean? It didn't output it right there on the left?
This is what it did. I tabbed file.
Oh, then go to the beginning and hit back so it lines up. Yeah. Just get it back. Okay. So everybody okay on using the accessor methods and stuff like that? Now they go on. Now the next section is mutator methods. Okay. You have accessor methods and mutator methods. Accessor methods access it, allow you to return the results. Mutator methods change something like set name. We're running low on time, so we're just going to do set name. So I'm going to write a method here. Define set name self. You always got to do self. Okay, whenever you're using with a class, you got to use self. Okay, self.name equals new name. Okay, so what I'm telling it is the setName mutator method will receive an argument called new name. It will take that and overwrite the variable name. So I'm going to get rid of get volume. I'm going to change this to set name. Name, capital letter, couldn't think of the word. Okay, set name, call it Bob. Okay, so I'm going to use this again. So I'm going to display the name. Say, first of all, we're passing it x25 as the name. So get name should return what? What name should it give?
X25.
It should return x25. Then set name is setting the name to Bob. Actually, you know what? I need to change this to underscore, don't I? Okay, so it should change, setting the name to Bob. And when I get the name again, it should be Bob. So it should output x25 and Bob. Now let's see if I have the same tab error again. Yes, I do. I'm going to Control A, format Tabify region for. It's something the way when we're creating these new methods, it's auto tabbing over. There, fix that. Okay, now we got x25 none and Bob. Where did I output it 3 times? Oh, and wonder why I got none? Because I told it to print set name. Print set name doesn't return anything. My bad. Now it'll be fine. So now it gets x25 and Bob. Easy enough. Everybody see how the mutator methods work? So you can use the mutator method to change a variable. Okay? So far so good? Hopefully. Alright. Now they go through showing us how we can change it. They call theirs Gamma Hydra, so on and so forth. Okay. There are special methods. There's a string method that's automatically included with it. We're about out of darn time. So what I could do, where do they create that? I'm going to see if they're doing show. You know, let's cover this a little bit more next time because we got too much to cover and we're out of class time. So we need to pick up with special methods on page 340, okay? There's no way I can finish in 3 minutes. It won't work. So no programming assignment yet, but we will complete chapter 10 next time. We're picking up on page 340.